I'm going to let you kind of
Cool.
take over.
Yeah, I thought I'd just give a quick recap of Flare and what it's doing, and obviously with a specific emphasis on what it's doing for Doge. So Flare is a new layer one blockchain. Layer one being the layer that is generally accepted to be things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge itself. So it's its own sort of self-contained blockchain. So it's not a side chain, which is what some people have kind of thought of it as. And essentially, its aim is to bridge a lot of the networks that don't have smart contracts. So, that's XRP, Litecoin, Dogecoin, all the various Bitcoin variants, and others. And then, as you may see, that we have some networks that are coming to Flare in some ways, or at least putting themselves forward to come to Flare through a governance vote that do have smart contracts. And that's often, usually the reason for that is that they want to have smart contract capabilities that use the Ethereum virtual machine, which is what Flare uses when they, as a chain, do not run the Ethereum virtual machine. So that gives them the best of both worlds. That gives them their own virtual machine and access with their token to the Ethereum virtual machine. So Flare's a very scalable smart contract layer, and really its role is to sort of bring all these tokens together one place to give them smart contracts. And what that really gives each community is access to all the sort of awesome things that have been happening in the smart contract space, which is really where most of the development in the space is. Just things like DeFi, NFTs. Increasingly, I'm seeing things like, private but digital identities, such that you can kind of have an identity on your blockchain that maybe doesn't give away who you are and where you live, but can be used to do transactions. I think that's probably something that's coming. Managing your own personal data and various other kind of applications which are moving along. And then, a lot of what's been taking place is a way for people to earn money. That's generally called DeFi. And that's taking their capital, which is their token, Doge, or any of the tokens out there. But obviously Doge sort of isn't available in DeFi today. Taking those and essentially putting them into liquidity pools for people to borrow them for cross-chain liquidity to take place, which is the trade of tokens between different chains. And that's what Flare will enable. It will enable essentially the full functionality that is available on blockchains today. So I hope that's a pretty succinct high-level summary. There's a lot of technical stuff underneath that, but I don't think it's necessary to get into that right now.
No, I think that's perfect. I think it's good leverage off of that first call that we had, which was kind of like the broach the subject, and now we can kind of dig a little bit deeper. Now I know that there's been a lot kind of going on with Flare aside from gearing up for the launch. Obviously, I'll jump right to it and I'll say there's been a lot of recent activity on social media with you and your network. Are there things that you're able to talk about in terms of growth and contracts with certain entities that you'd like to talk about?
So just to be super clear, we never discuss anything that we will do in the future, and the reason for that is because once the network launches, we as a group of engineers, sort of, people working around Flare, we no longer lead it. Once the network launches, we're just an entity on the chain. Like yourself, perhaps we're a big entity, but we are not the leaders of that network. And for us to assume anything happens in the future that is guided by us is far too much. and also would mean that the network itself would run into legal issues.
Yeah,
So
no, that's totally fair.
we don't discuss anything we're planning simply because we simply cannot affect it. Um, Anything that happens after the network launches must happen after a governance vote. That is, when I say anything, I mean any major changes. Obviously, any application can launch on Flare that it wishes, um, and but we can't give forward guidance on people we're talking to. With the Really, what will happen is those applications will announce themselves on the day that they decide to come. Um, there's been a lot of social media activity because we have already had some applications start talking about coming to Flare. Uh, Two of those really I'm extremely excited by. Well, I mean, all of the applications that are coming to Flare, I'm extremely excited by, but two of those kind of announced, I think, in the intervening period. The first was the metaverse, or maybe that was announced kind of before we spoke last time. But the metaverse uh, gave people a sneak peek of what is going to be available. They haven't even put their name out. Their name is quite radically cool. And yeah, the metaverse that's coming to Flare, which is where you will be able to display your NFTs and talk to each other, and this is essentially a virtual universe. That's one of the applications that's building on Flare, and then one of the other applications that's building on Flare, which I think you may have seen, is a new NFT marketplace. So an NFT marketplace is a place where people can demonstrate, show their NFTs, and they're sold. It's a place for artists, potentially game companies, and maybe even at some point in the future, hypothetically, fashion houses to display their wares and sell them. And there's some quite successful NFT marketplaces today, like Nifty Gateway, OpenSea, and one of the largest NFT art collectors in the space, 888, if you've heard of him,
Yep.
decided that he wanted to use Flare um, to build his own marketplace. To me, it's one of the real sort of challenges to the existing setup in the space. I think it'll be extremely successful. It's backed by many of the largest NFT artists in the space, and of course, Paris Hilton. So that was a really great piece of news, and the video they put together, which you can see at their website, 888tnw.com, is really cool. And I mean, I don't even want to think how much money they spent on that. But I've spoken to the founder, 888. He's a unbelievably passionate person, genuinely, good-natured, means well, very, very, real. I don't get any sense of, that he's just really in it for the money. He seems to be unbelievably keen on real, the NFT space and NFT art. So it's really refreshing to meet people like that.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine, and it's exactly the buzz that I was referencing. Um, Obviously, a lot of us have done a little bit of digging, but I know that as a couple of days go by, we'll probably be able to see more and more of that and dig a little bit deeper.
And then, of course, yesterday we announced, an investment from a number of, really, really great firms in the space.
Right.
Kinetic being the lead of that investment. But then, Digital Currency Group, which is the parent company of Grayscale, is a serious sort of achievement for someone of our scale to get them as investors. It's I sort of, like someone said to me, when you explain to your parents, oh, who are these people? I was like, okay, so these are like the Goldman Sachs of crypto, if you want to think about it that way. And so, and we have other funds such as Borderless Capital, back-end capital, LD Cap, which is a really, really important Chinese venture capital fund, ZB Group, which is a large Chinese exchange, MXC, and then a whole bunch of angels and market makers, Genesis, which is again a sub group of DCG, which is an institutional trading house, also invested in us. So it was really Vinny Lingham, who's the founder of Civic, Do Kwon, who's the founder of Terra, Charlie Lee, who's the founder of Litecoin, and a number of other people. So it was, it started out, Flare started out really as a research project, and it's come to a place where it has really quite strong support from a large amount of the community, which is, of the real important people in the blockchain space. So that's unbelievably exciting for us. So that's the second piece of news really since we last spoke.
Yeah, no, nothing major, right? Just I'm just gonna grab a shovel and scoop all this news on you guys real quick, which is incredible. Just wanted to ask you really quick, how close do you feel like you guys are to launching?
So, out of respect to our engineers, so as to not to not give them a heart attack, I don't give an exact date. Only when you say to someone, "I need you to get something done for this date," it just puts pressure on them, and I don't want them to feel unduly pressurized. Once this network is launched, there's not really much we can do with it after that. It's if there are things that are problematic, we have to roll out changes across the community, and that is a much harder process than getting it right to start with. So hence I don't want to damage our chances of launching really well. That being said, we don't feel it's very far off.
Nice. That's awesome.
We are obviously gearing up for launch, but it will be done. It will be launched only at the point where we feel that we've passed all safety tests. I suppose a bit like SpaceX, they will announce the launch day roughly, and then they may miss their launch window for various reasons, like the weather or there's a technical problem, and then they reschedule. We're probably not going to do that, but we have a date in mind. We don't necessarily want to put it out yet. As we get sort of close to the launch, we will try to kind of make that very clear. But just to be completely upfront here, it's not actually us that's launching the network. We are simply saying to the initial set of validators on the network, we think that the software that exists is now, in an acceptable shape to launch. Because as a decentralized network from day one, it's really not up to us to just launch it.
Yeah, perfect.
Hugo, This is Jenny. So I'm gonna circle back with the last question about the fundraising. I know it's 6 a.m. on your side, but Decrypt Media did put out a news about Flare Network today, which was about 15 or 16 hours ago.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it, but for our listeners, wanted to Google the title of the piece of media about Flare Network, and I'm going to read it now. It says, Flare Network raises $11.3 million in funding round with Kinetic and DCG. So congratulations, Hugo. That is huge.
Yeah, man, congrats. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's huge. So based upon this piece of media, I have a two-part question, Hugo. The first paragraph of this piece of media, it says, smart contracts platform Flare Network raises, again, 11.3 million funding round led by Kinetic Capital with firms including Coin Fund and Grayscale, which you've mentioned, parent company of Digital Currency Group participating. So here's the first question. I know you are a major supporter of Dogecoin, Litecoin, and XRP. I would talk a little bit about Dogecoin because that's my community. I'm all into Dogecoin. Let's zero in on Grayscale a little bit. What are your thoughts? Grayscale being a major um, financier behind Flare Network, which is great, right? But then there is this thing that they shorted Dogecoin. That's the first part. Can you comment on that? If you can't, it's
Absolutely.
okay as
No,
well.
no,
Okay,
no
go ahead.
problem.
Go ahead.
So I'm aware that, Barry Silbert may be a bête noire somewhat in the Doge community, but I think that two things I'll say. First of all, they're a financial outfit. Their job is not to be ardently long, short anything. So Grayscale is a financial outfit. They're traders. Um, they have a venture capital arm which takes long-term bets, but with their short-term portfolio, they are entitled to manage that however they wish, and obviously, if they publicly say something that can likely feed into their own portfolio, uh, obviously to the chagrin of people that are holding a particular coin. But at the end of the day, they're traders. But they're only small, entities in the larger environment. And I think the important thing about crypto, the important thing about decentralization, and I really think this is very important, is that it allows people literally the consensus methodology. And if you take this take this to a larger scale, is it allows a group of individuals to come together that may not necessarily have identical opinions, but do share the same opinion that the space as a whole is good, decentralization is good, personal autonomy is good, the ability to manage your own finances is good, but may differ on the means by which that occurs. So, I think it's perfectly possible for a company to have a president who, takes a short position in a certain coin, whilst also betting in a different manner on essentially that coin's future. But there's long-term elements of your portfolio, short-term elements of your portfolio. So I don't. Although I know that social media paints absolutely everything in black and white. Personally, I don't think. I don't think that's the terrible thing that everyone sees it as. A bit like Elon Musk, was quite harsh about Bitcoin, having initially pumped it up quite hard, and I just don't. People are entitled to have opinions that are variable. So that's sort of a long-winded way of saying this is a market. Opinions change. People can be right. People can be wrong. We are extremely big believers in Dogecoin, and in all the things that we're trying to do, which is to try and bring all these various networks together on Flare. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for that. Second part to the question, which is very similar, got a couple DMs. Is they saying that after you raised the 11.3 million today, are you still accepting investors? If you can elaborate a little bit more about that.
No, we're not. We don't need any more money. We've been turning investors away for the last month.
Bam! That's
We
nice right there.
we probably could have raised many
That's
multiples
nice.
of that,
Right.
but we wanted a good group of investors, and we got it, and we didn't want excessive dilution, and all that kind of stuff. So,
That's
yeah,
beautiful.
we've had a good fundraising round.
Gotcha. All right. So moving to the next question here is based on our last call, I know there were some pending orders from people outside of your control, which slow down your expected launch time a tiny bit. Since then, have those cleared up? And additionally, have there been any slowdowns or unforeseens over the last few weeks that you feel is important for the community to understand or know about, especially those that are on the edge of their seats for this launch?
There's been nothing unexpected happen. There's no change to our timeline internally. The pending order really that you're referring to is a security audit. There's a very now is a very busy time for security audit companies. And so, even though we were scheduling these things back in October last year, you ask for some additional work and they're like, well, we can do it next October. And you say, well, that's not good enough. And then you kind of negotiate. And then they say, well, we'll move one project a little bit later because you're a good customer of ours and all that kind of stuff. So no, nothing's changed, but just trying to explain why there was a pending order anyway.
It's like subcontractors. You're kind of at their mercy.
You are, to an extent. You are.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much for that. Next question. Backing up just a bit here because I come from a business background in both startup and growth. When you first decided Flare is going to be your baby, did you end up going the traditional route for financial backing? Or more importantly, is there a fund or financial recovery in any unforeseen event such as bugs or hackers?
Oh, so I think those two questions need to be separated, if you don't mind.
Sure, of course.
So I suppose we've gone a semi-traditional route. We've really started out, myself, Sean, and Nairi, as just researching the space and trying to figure out what was interesting in the space, what wasn't, what needed work. And we just started out really just reading a ton of papers. And it was, I guess you think of it, really Flare came from was something that we think of as a research house, an entity that was set up to basically do a lot of research into the space. And then we got funding subsequently from from some initial seed investors, then Ripple, then this recent round. So that's our funding story. Now, no one ever really sets up a financial fund for bugs and things like that. What they do is they set up a bug bounty, and absolutely there's a bug bounty program. We will put out details of that, quite soon. That'll be managed by the foundation, and essentially it will have a certain amount of FLR or Spark tokens associated with it that will be to reward developers and parties that find bugs.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's gonna put a lot of minds at ease, right? Because that seems to be one of the most common questions that have come up. That
interesting. Yeah. It's it's a common development. Even centralized tech companies have a bug bounty program. Ours will be administered by the foundation.
Yeah, and I also think that there's a lot of naysayers that really don't want Flare to succeed, that are just going to kind of put this negative PR out and say, there's nothing backing them, and if it goes, it's a rug pull, which is a term they love to use, and they just aren't willing to come to the table and ask the questions themselves. So,
tonight's live is perfect because everybody can go to that Decrypt Media and read who is backing Flare Network, and those are not small names. Right. Those are ginormous guys and backers for the Flare Network. So whoever is spreading the FUDs about Flare Network, I would say that to to wrap that up, because that's not true.
Yeah, and we'll definitely touch into that, I think, as
There'll
we move
always
along
be
to
people spreading FUD. There'll always be
Oh
FUD
yeah,
spreading.
no, it's inevitable, and you know what? As you build success, that's unfortunate. That's what comes with it. But
I think it's very, I think it's very easy to say that people have, negative, ambitions, but Sean, myself, Nairi, and the whole team are very public about who we are, what we're doing, and we're fairly open. It's been a very long process for us. I mean, we started talking to the XRP community back in 2018. So if it were a rug pull, it would be an extremely elaborate one.
Yeah, it's up there.
I mean,
It's
wow.
up there with one of the best. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just unfortunate, but I know it comes with the territory. And there's always that fear of the unknown, which is why these Twitter Spaces are important. And to your credit, you're willing to come up, and you've been fully transparent since day one. So I've never really understood the animosity, aside from potentially hidden agendas. But
again, I think there's a lot of hidden agendas.
Yeah, and that's something that you're never going to avoid. It's always going to be there. So, I know that you and I have talked offline about a couple of the few Flare-esque type platforms that are out there that have kind of come to surface. Like, we did have a recent call with Flare Finance. I feel like they did a very good job of explaining where they are and who they are and where they fit in the picture. But I also wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of re-clarify for those that might still be confused and that are doing some research and seeing both names and being confused, just to clear that up.
So Flare is the network. Flare Finance is an application on the network. And so it's really that simple. If you look at any smart contract chain, specifically Ethereum, that there's hundreds, thousands of applications. Let's call it Uniswap, Curve, Balancer, Compound, Maker on those platforms. Flare Finance is the same. It just does. It has 6 or 7. I think it has 6 products that are being built on Flare. Mickey B, who knows Flare Finance, I think at this point substantially better than me. Correct me on anything I'm wrong about. But yes, they're a different team. They're a group of independent developers. Personally, I think they're doing very good work. And they have a wrapping protocol for non-F assets. So what I mean by that is, Flare has a protocol which we're engaging Doge in, called the F asset protocol, which allows the Doge to be put on Flare in what we say and is the most trustless manner available in the space. And what this means is that your Doge can be used on Flare without you having to trust a third party to do that. Flare Finance have a wrapping service which does something similar-ish for other other tokens that want to come to Flare, but aren't yet an F asset. The thing is, it's a sort of regular wrapping service which isn't as trustless as Flare's version. So we will also be looking to have governance proposals submitted by the community for the addition of further F assets.
Awesome. I know we touched on this a little bit the first call in terms of finding viable sources that are going to give us legit, unbiased opinion. I know that this day and age it seems to be almost impossible to find, but aside from going directly to your website, which is flare.xyz, if I'm correct.
It is, yep. Which we've just updated and looks quite a lot nicer.
Yeah, it looks awesome. It's definitely modernized and it looks great. Man, you guys did a great job. Are there any other Twitter handles that are possibly keeping everybody up to date, or the reliable sources of write-ups such as journalism, or journalists associated with any sort of press or anything that you recommend for us to kind of be directed to kind of siphon out the bad stuff versus kind of the unbiased, more knowledgeable information?
So we got really, really lucky with Flair. We've in this relatively short space of time that we've been around, we've sort of accumulated some really wonderful supporters who sort of aggregate, think about, put out content, create new content, create explainers. And I mean, it's fairly obvious who they are, but I'll shout them out. It's Mickey B. Fresh, Tim Rowley, Crypto Airy, Patty. Who else have we got? We've got Community Flair. We've got Deep Space Flair. We've got just a number of different parties, and forgive me if I'm missing anyone. I don't mean to. It's very early in the morning. We've got lots and lots of different parties that really do create great content. They report on what Flair's doing, but they also, they tend to put together, very good explainers. There was a group a couple of weeks ago that were particularly good. Having a blank on their name. They did just a short explainer video on Flair, if anyone knows which one I'm talking about. There's a British gentleman. Anyway, no, I forget the name. But yeah, there's a number of different parties that put out good information. I wonder if there's a way that we ought to kind of have some. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate really for us to nominate parties as I wouldn't say official, but maybe believable. Not sure how one would do that in a way that's fair.
Yeah.
So
I would probably think that what I would ask of you is think about the names, and obviously between Jenny and I and the huge Dogecoin community, and with Patty and all these powerful people that are in the space that like Christine and everybody like that. If you can give us some names, we can definitely direct people when those questions come up. We can just post it in their comments, because a lot of people are asking questions, and unfortunately it does kind of fall off the wayside because a lot of people don't know, and they don't really know where to direct. So if we have the ability to just kind of capture them. Go ahead.
I think what I'll do is I'll ask someone in the community who's listening to put together.
Actually, Hugo, Militia, if I may jump in real quick. I mean, after raising $11.3 million, again, congratulations. But have you ever worked with a public relations firm? I mean, a public relations firm, basically, they represent you, your brand. They speak to the public on your behalf, not only just the public, but also investors, partners, employees, blah, blah, blah.
That thing you saw in Decrypt and stuff, that was handled by a public relations firm. But the reality is that they just feed the market what we say.
Right.
And so it's not unbiased, and it's not, it's just basically a mouthpiece for us. And that's not, we obviously use them, but that's not enough. I think the community aspect where, people kind of break down what Flare is, how it works, how to use it, and give people really, detailed explainers is everyone does publicity, but actually the real value comes from the community. And so what I was going to say is I'd really ask someone in the community maybe to take a lead in creating a list of respected voices. It's not our place to do it, because then we'd be kind of elevating some set of people above another set, and that's not I don't find that a desirable place to be. But I do think that there are people in the community that others trust, that would be capable of saying, okay, these are the 5 people or 10 people that create really good stuff around Flare. So we will see how that develops.
All right, great. Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, if you, I know a lot of great, just a few actually, PR companies that would represent companies well, and so certainly that can also help. But of course, community help too as well. But I do believe to be successful, the two got to jointly work together.
Oh,
But
100%.
yeah, yeah,
Up until yesterday, we had spent $0 on marketing,
right,
or PR or whatever.
right.
We are doing that now because we need to reach a audience beyond, Twitter and Discord and all those channels. We need people who manage, large amounts of Dogecoin, large amounts of XRP, large amounts of all that to see what Flare's about.
Yeah, and
And
certainly,
yes, we're working on that marketing kind of process.
okay. Certainly, we can certainly talk offline because I do know just a very few, not a lot. I mean, there's a lot of PR companies out there, but there are very, very few good ones.
Yeah.
So I can certainly share a few of those with you offline. But
Oh, that would be really valuable. Thank you.
yeah, so let's go to the next question here. Okay, so we know you hate rumors. I hate rumors too. I think we all hate rumors, right? Especially the ones that are completely unfound. But I wanted to address, I guess, one thing is that there is a rumor that there will be about 20 products linked to Flare Network. If you are able to speak on this, if you can, but if you can't, feel free to, don't have to.
Oh,
Um,
it's very simple. There'll be the network can have as many products as you want on it.
so what do you see is your first move immediately after launch and further after loans and mutuals, etc., that I'm not familiar with yet.
So our job as Flare is simply to build the network, um, and help people understand what it's been built for, what the technology does, um, and to encourage development on the network. But it's not our place at all, to dictate a forward strategy for applications. Um, our job is really to evangelize Flare to developers that want to build products on the network. And so Flare Finance is one of them, 888 is one of them, Trustline is one of them, Gala Games is one. There's quite a few others that we've been talking to, that have expressed an interest in coming. Obviously, the metaverse is another one, and so and I mean within the Flare Finance stable, I think there's 6 or 7 products. So Sparkle's NFT platform is another one. So I think we don't talk about things that could be coming to Flare, and we don't talk about directions that we might take ourselves with regards if we do in fact end up building anything, which I don't know if we will. We have never thought about it, or haven't thought about it enough. So we won't make announcements till it's done. Just to be clear on that.
Right. I mean, I also run companies myself, so I totally respect that because I don't say a word until things are done and things are ready to launch. So I'm definitely with you there. Like in terms of being a CEO and stuff. So I totally respect that. So a next question is one thing that no one can deny, which is extremely admirable, is that Flare's willingness to break through the boundaries between crypto networks and building bridges across many networks. Where do you see Flare in the future and as the future of decentralized blockchain?
So it's really sort of important to us that, look, when we looked at this space, we see a lot of different networks. And for so long, people look at it and they say, oh, it's the technology that is going to incentivize adoption and incentivize the value. But what does your blockchain do is a question that they ask a lot, and all that kind of stuff. But what they're really asking is, underneath all that is, well, what industrial company or what established company is going to use this blockchain and make all this valuable? Because for a long time in the space, there was a kind of mental block around what blockchain was, and a lot of the early kind of investors in the space were looking at it and saying, oh well, this is a blockchain for I don't know, some business, let's say IBM or whatever. This is a blockchain for identity. This is a blockchain for healthcare. This is a blockchain for ABC category, and it doesn't work like that. What's become extremely clear in the last couple of years, I think, is that really the value in blockchain is in the communities. We are, like the internet actually. When the internet was launched, people were like, "Oh well, let's take existing industries and then let's directly transpose them onto the internet. Let's try and make some company on the internet that is very similar to its existing counterpart in the real world." And what you found and what happened was that they morphed into something totally unrecognizable. So really the big successful businesses have been Amazon, which is unlike any other kind of retail bricks and mortar business that has ever existed. Facebook, completely new concept. I mean, no one ever put a yellow pages of people through your door before. Google, it's an information business and an information business only, pretty much. And so those kind of things. And I think we will see exactly the same with blockchain, which is, everyone was asking in the early days, oh, well, how does this help business? How does this help banking? How does this help ABC? That's not my opinion as to how this will unfold. My opinion is that we as communities will just end up building products that serve our communities, serve our blockchains, serve our specific interests, rather than having to transpose directly from the real world.
Awesome. So if you have to script the perfect scenario to play out for Flare, what does it look like?
Well, a successful launch with no issues is my first ambition, and then we really want to have the underlying chains well represented. We want to engage with all the miners on those underlying chains, validators on those underlying chains, and make sure that they understand their role on Flare, that it's a democratic platform for the expression of all the value from those underlying chains. And then, I guess for me, I'll be happy just to see applications come to Flare, build on Flare, and the communities from the integrated chains such as DogeCoin, XRP, Litecoin, and Stellar, and then any others that are added, really to participate on Flare and to use the applications. I mean, one of the exciting things about the NFT platforms that are being launched is you'll be able to buy art or video game sort of in-game assets using your native token, Doge, and that's kind of our set of ambitions. Where entrepreneurs take that from there with regards to what they build on the network is a totally open question and unbelievably exciting. But it's for me, it's the power of composability across all the various sources of value, which is something that's never really been approached before. So no one's ever bought XRP Litecoin, Dogecoin, and Stellar, and then all the other potentials to the same place, to interoperate with each other, to be cross-composable, and to have cross-chain liquidity. So to me, I don't try and think too far out into the future, because it's really not our role. Our role is simply to tell people what's possible to build, and then allow them to build it, and then to help them build it, and to evangelize them building it. Applications specifically are for developers and entrepreneurs to build.
Nice. That'll roll me into my next one. Jenny, good job on that one. Hugo, love that answer. I mean, I took I'm trying to take notes. I'm literally on my fifth page. This is insane. So I appreciate you. We alluded to this a little bit earlier. As you guys get closer to launch, you guys become more and more of a target for the naysayers. All have, like we had mentioned, have typical hidden agendas. I know by now for you guys, it's turned into kind of like one of those, just a grain of salt, and we'll kind of let the product speak for itself. One of the most overused attempts to delegitimize Flare so far, from what I've seen, without literally any use of brain power whatsoever, is using the power of perception. In every case, this is it's just centralizing an industry that's created to be decentralized. This one is a question that I kind of formulated, and it's one that I'm very passionate about, as you can probably tell by the verbiage.
Yeah.
I literally want you to squash this notion as either as eloquently or as passionately as you'd like, to put the naysayers in place, because I don't feel like this is a fair argument.
I mean, I think it's absurd. So if you look at how Flare works, it derives its network structure from each of the underlying networks. So each of the underlying networks, validators and miners, is represented on Flare. And in fact, they have they get rewarded on Flare for being a miner on their underlying chain. And so Flare isn't really its own kind of network. It is a network of networks. It's like a sort of patchwork quilt, if you will, consisting of all the underlying integrated networks. So, I mean, you couldn't come up with a more decentralized model if you tried. So I refute that utterly. It's idiotic, but then there's a lot of idiots.
It gets stale is like the best term that I can come up with, because every time I see it, I'm just like, you literally have nothing else to say. I mean, that's literally all you can say.
I mean, the real key part that's so important to understand about Flare is that, unlike, many other projects that try to attach themselves to other chains, Flare makes zero demands of any other chain. Absolutely everything is optional. We ask for no changes. There's no, Flare has zero technical, footprint on any chain that it touches. Like you effectively won't know it's there.
Right,
and it's optional to use.
That's part of my frustration with the lack of questions that have come up. A lot of people would rather kind of stick with that MO and the perception that's been created and try to tear you down while trying to build themselves up. And I think it's taboo.
It's very common.
Yeah, it just sucks to see, because this has been such a big deal for Doge. Most of us that are in Doge, that are in this group, are we're so high on this, and it gets old. It really does. It just gets stale. And I'm a big believer in coming straight to the horse's mouth and coming to you and saying, what do you have to say about it? And it's idiotic. It's just.
Well, I think one of the things is that people conflate us with XRP. And XRP has had for a very long time, and it's no secret, a huge amount of naysayers that say it's centralized and all this kind of stuff. We have, great respect for what XRP has built. But Flare is a completely different technology. And it's structured in a completely different way. And XRP is structured for the way it's structured, which is, useful for its model. It's been, operational for a very long time and successfully so. And Flare is structured the way I just dictated, which is it's composed of all the underlying networks. So people just think somehow Flare is just like using a smart contract platform that's somehow built on XRP, which is, and then they use their sort of version of XRP is centralized, and that gives them this weird filter to look at everything through. But the reality is that Flare allows XRP to be used in the same way that Doge can be used on Flare, but it isn't built from XRP. It's not part of the XRP network. So I think that's the kind of mistake that people make logically in their head. But it's very easy to correct.
Yeah, no, and that's, the beauty of these conversations is hey, you have questions, we got answers, right?
Yeah.
That's easy. So, Jenny, I don't mean to put you on the spot with Hugo on this one, but I'm gonna. Hugo, so this one's actually a two-parter. One for you, Hugo. One for you, Jenny. Hugo, do you feel that the Flare network is being viewed as a threat to the quote-unquote mass production of the altcoins or tokens that end up financially benefiting the creators of those coins or tokens that are basically created to leverage, something like Doge, where Doge is meme based, we're momentum based, and we have a huge community. Do you feel that Flare is a threat to them? I know I kind of talked to you about this offline a little bit, but figured I'd bring it to light.
To be honest with you, they're a threat to themselves. I don't really think Flare's a threat to them. I mean, we have no impact on them. I don't think we particularly, would necessarily think that they'll be integrated unless for some reason there's a community vote that they would be integrated. Doge is, it's a meme based, but it's been around for such a long time, and it's consistently been there. And I think I've said this before, but national currencies are a meme in the traditional sense of what a meme is, which is a shared idea that propagates through society about something. That's like the Richard Dawkins definition of what a meme is. And a national currency is the same idea, which is a piece of paper with someone's head on it, usually, which is a shared idea that this paper has value.
And you're right.
and that is a meme, and that's what a currency is. It just happens to be issued by a government rather than a blockchain. The thing is that there can only be a number of, shared memes that a sufficiently large number of people buy into such that it has value. Doge is one of them, and I think more or less the only one I think is likely to be highly successful, but obviously it's sort of not for me to say.
Time will tell, right?
Well, I see time has told, but I think the future is obviously a different thing. I see a huge amount of new meme coins coming through. I really can't imagine why they exist, but
that was actually my next question for you. Is like, does that frustrate you to see just like this onslaught of,
No, not at all. Not at all. Look, if people want to develop things and put things out there and take the risk, actually, that should be admired. Whether they are successful in gathering enough people around them to also believe in it is a totally different thing. And if they do, kudos to them and kudos to that community. I don't think one should be frustrated by others' attempts to create something.
Right. No, I think you actually gave me a perfect segue to Jenny. Obviously, it's no secret that you've had incredible success in running your successful tech and crypto companies. What are your thoughts on the creation of creating your own meme token and sharing it with a community such as Doge and the accepting communities in our case, like with Doge per se?
Oh God, no, is all I can say. Just no. I'm also not a believer in the deification of anyone in this space. Um, I, I find the kind of fanboy mentality around people that are related to blockchains to be very, very antithetical to what we're actually trying to achieve, which is I find the fanboy mentality to be too close to religion, and I don't like it. Um, and I don't. It's really not what we're trying to achieve. What we're actually trying to achieve is a democracy rather than a theocracy.
Right.
And I don't like the theocratic aspects of this space. It bothers me, and the fact that it's a tendency in pretty much all human thinking is unbelievably tiresome.
Yeah. No,
To,
I'm right
to,
there with you. And I was going to ask
uh,
Jenny the exact same question. Given your success in running successful tech and crypto, what are your thoughts on creating your own meme token and kind of leveraging the Doge community, for example?
Totally respect Hugo's response there. Here's my take on this situation. It's obviously quite sensitive. Um, Obviously there are, let's just say, the top dozen. I will just only speak about Dogecoin. I won't speak about Litecoin and the XRP because I'm not familiar with their community. So I would speak of the Dogecoin community. Within the Doge community, I can say that there could be like a top maybe a dozen people who are well respected. They speak honestly. They share education, etc., etc. I just retweeted a tweet from Ross Nicole, who is the
Yep.
main developer for Dogecoin. To those who do not know of him, please do go follow him. But let me let me answer Militia's question. Certainly, people who do know me, I have two tech companies. I can certainly, I'm not a coder, I'm not a developer, but I can certainly hire someone to duplicate certain codes and have my own meme coin, right? But what would that do? What will that do to the community that I represent? Okay, I mean, imagine if a guy like Ross Nicole, which is the tweet that I just retweeted, right? If he goes out and I'm certainly he can duplicate the code and create his own meme coin, call it like whatever, like WTF coin, whatever, right? That's counterintuitive of what he does as the head developer for the Doge community. Okay, so there is a quote which I kind of tweeted earlier, right? A guy like Ross, he is confident, therefore he is silent. He doesn't speak, he doesn't go to the media, he keeps it to himself. Those who are insecurities are those who are very, very loud. And therefore, okay, they they drag the wrong crowd with them, and therefore they would ruin the community that was built for that token. Okay, I can use terms like self-fulfillment. Okay, what they do could taint the community if they happen to do that, not to mention bringing toxicity to the community. Okay, my final statement to this is that sure, anyone can create a token. It's not that difficult. You can code it yourself, or you can hire somebody to do it for you. Okay, but if you are one of the well-known, if not top dozen influencer of not just the Doge community, could be Litecoin, could be XRP, and you go out and you create your own coin, okay, so that you can use the community that has already respected you and you already have a following. What does that say or speak about you? Okay, so obviously from my tone you can understand that I'm totally against that. Okay, so if you wanted to create a token or whatever it is, by all means, go for it, right? But don't use the community that you are already in to basically pump it. And then who knows, you might pull the rug on it and then you'll be gone. By doing so, if that were to be the case, what does that leave behind with the Doge community and everybody worldwide looking at that?
There is a really nice model for like influencer kind of, I suppose you might call it coins, as opposed to trying to start a new Dogecoin or all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, the model I've seen that's really interesting is like the Zap bonding curve model, whereby you have essentially a bonding curve, which means that as let's say you have 1,000 coins, and the first coin maybe starts life at someone can buy it from the contract at like $1, and then the next coin is essentially at a higher place on the curve. So maybe you're buying it at $1.2, and then up until you get to that 1,000th coin, and then you can put the coin back to the contract at various places on the curve. And to me, that's a particularly good model about how to monetize, if people wish to, their kind of public persona. I always thought that was a really interesting idea. And it allows people to kind of speculate on like an influencer over some period of time, and it means that you don't have to try and launch a new competing network that sort of tries to replace the existing coins, because you don't want the infinite fragmentation of communities if you can avoid it. But anyway, that's just my take on it, and it's completely unrelated to Flare. Nothing that we're doing.
It's fair in the sense that, like, if I was to ask you right now, like, what was your biggest interest and intrigue in pulling Doge in as one of your first three?
Oh, first four, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, so for instance, I just thought that for a very long time that it was we're particularly interested in gaming. We're particularly interested in the social aspects of how blockchain works, because for so long it's been very very sort of tech, very finance, very DeFi driven. And we think that really the next domain of blockchain is a social element, and we think that Dogecoin is really the as you said, it's a meme, and a meme is inherently social, and we think it's a great kind of internet scale sort of money for things that are fun, enjoyable, friendly, and try to do good every day. So that's our take. I mean, it's just an obvious choice. It doesn't have smart contracts. Flare's trying to bring smart contracts. Yeah. It's just the right choice. We've been as quietly supporters of Dogecoin for a very long time.
How important would you say that the community is, as a unified community, to kind of carry on the persona of Doge for you guys?
For which community? The Doge community?
Yeah, the Dogecoin community, because it's definitely
important.
Yeah, it's super unique, right? It's unduplicatable, and it's I in our last conversation we talked about the unspoken intrigue, which is the community, right? And it's something that I know for you is like, holy crap! I mean, this is something where everybody's together, everybody's unified, and this thing is it's the power of the people, first and foremost, and it's right there in your face. So I think
I mean, to me, it's the successful, so far the most successful embodiment of community decentralization, democratization of money. You've got Bitcoin, and it's obviously highly successful, but it is also now largely seen as an investment product. Really, it's something that people buy as a hedge to their portfolio, or because They think it's going up in value by by next year to 100,000 or whatever people say about it. You've got Ethereum, which obviously has its use cases. You've got XRP, which has its use cases and its specific, elements. You've got Litecoin, Stellar, and all these things. Doge, to me, is the most successful embodiment of the kind of social coming together of a group of people.
I'm right
everything else is based around a different idea.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is based around this idea of kind of a store of value. XRP is based around the idea of very fast transactions, etc., etc. Doge's idea is essentially based around a meme and bringing a community together around that, and it's been incredibly successful at that, and it's so nice because the key FUD that's leveled at Doge is that Doge is a joke, right? And it was created in an afternoon. No, it was, but it isn't. And the reason it isn't is because people believe in it.
Exactly. And that's something, when Billy does talk, it's like, yeah, it was, but it's not. You can go on for days and talk about, the value of anything. In the 80s, it's not comparable, but it kind of is. I know people that were buying pet rocks because it had cool paint on it, and it was like the fad of the century. Like, it was a pet rock. It was no big deal, but it was created probably to be a little piece of art that people can have, and then it grew into something that people were willing to pay for. So the intrinsic value of it was what someone was willing to pay for it, and that's
the intrinsic value of Doge is the community.
Right, and that's
it's not a financial value, just a financial value.
Oh, exactly. And I get more frustrated when I hear people say, "Oh, when are we going to get to $1?" Or when moon is one of the messages I love.
Well, when moon, so they can just sell it and leave the community. It's exactly. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know what? A true testament to Jenny, just because you could probably sense the passion behind her. In gearing and in basically ensuring that the community stays exactly what it's meant to be and why it was created. Our community is only stronger together. We can't break up. We can't have alternate tokens within the community because it's just going to saturate us. It's going to break us up. We can't. There's just so many other things that go into it that really don't coincide with the bigger picture, which is something that I think everybody has to remember, that there is a bigger picture, which is why we're having this conversation tonight with you.
Look how revolutionary this is. In 10 years, a group of people have come together using a new technology to create a source of value that is, not available to be dictated by anyone else. And I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I am talking about Dogecoin. And that's a very, an unbelievably important thing to remember. Bitcoin, of course, has done it. It's done it with a largely different set of participants. I personally feel that Dogecoin is more sort of egalitarian.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of us, and probably by a lot, I mean by most of us in this community, feel the exact same way, and this is why we're in this community.
Yeah, look, all the tokens that are in the top, N coins, and I won't give a number, they have their merits and their value, and they have their value for a reason. And all the FUD is a bit silly because by any measure, them and their communities have been highly successful.
Right.
That's you may say, oh, it's people may say, oh, it's hype or whatever, but it's
reality. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, as much as people want to deny it, you can't. Listen, there's plenty of things that I've walked through. I'm like, what? It's got a price tag on it. Are you kidding me? Like, I would never. But I'm not the only consumer.
Exactly.
Well, that was a nice little hot button topic there. Let's bring this kind of all the way back around. and bringing it back to legitimacy, the functionality of the Gala token, the GALA. Sorry, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but will there be an earning mechanism? That was a question that was offline.
Oh, so Gala token again is nothing to do with us.
There you go.
It's Gala Gala Gaming, and that's again, it's like Flare Finance is an application on Flare.
Got it.
Gala Gaming will be allowing a couple of things. Let me just take a sip of water and I'll tell you what.
Cool. Okay. Good to note.
So Gala Gaming is a gaming company. It creates really awesome games. Actually, really love them. And just I know I've spoken to their CEO and all their team quite a lot, and I just think they're so passionate and they're really building great stuff. And so their games have a kind of, I suppose, a modern idea about what a game is, which is you don't just play the game and then the company that made the game owns everything in game, but you actually own stuff in game. So if you have a sword, you own that sword. If you have a house, you own that house. There's deeds to land, and it becomes a sort of economy within a game. And so that all those economic aspects are represented by two things. Gala, the token, which is the, I believe, the sort of coin that is used, first of all, to buy stuff in game or buy stuff from the store to use in game. And then the NFT, which is, or the NFTs, which are the sort of in-game assets, like a castle or a sword or whatever. Both of those, in different ways, I believe Gala are planning to bring to Flare. So the assets, the NFT assets, they will allow people who accumulate those assets to mint them onto Flare as NFTs. So the Gala NFTs will exist on the Flare blockchain, and then the Gala token, which is currently on Ethereum, Gala have said that they will be using our state connector technology to allow people to burn their Gala token on Ethereum and then it be replaced with a new Gala token, the same token, but just minted on Flare. And that would give Gala substantial sort of savings in cost and a lot more sort of faster transactions.
No, that's awesome. I think I've actually talked to quite a few very intelligent people in the crypto space that have talked about the gamification and the utilization in games as being kind of like the next wave of utilization of crypto. So it's interesting that synergizes with that.
Yeah, I mean, we, Gala and us, we have a kingdom called Kingdom of the Moon in Gala's upcoming game called Mirandus. And so we'll be looking at how to kind of develop that for the Flare community.
Very cool. All right,
Nice.
Hugo. Next, yes, very nice. Next question. I think we have about 15 minutes, so I think we have just a few more questions left. And then
I can run a bit longer if needed.
Okay, great.
Sorry, accidentally hit mute. That's on me. Novice over here.
Okay, there I am. So Hugo, what is the process by which a coin is added to the network, and are there any costs involved in acquiring or hosting it?
Okay, so I'm not quite sure what you mean by a coin added to the network. Do you mean like I give you two things. So adding
Militia, you can add to if you want.
Well, let me run that by you. So adding a new token in its entirety, so one that hasn't been put on Flare before. Let's call it an F asset. I'm assuming that's what you mean, like FDoge. We have what's known as the F asset system, and that is essentially a set of protocols which allow tokens from other networks to be expressed on Flare. If you want to have a new F asset, let's call it like F Algorand, which is one that one of our investors will be asking the community to essentially bring to fruition through a governance vote. You would submit a governance proposal, which would say, please integrate Algorand with the state connector, the Flare time series Oracle, and please have a smart contract that allows for the creation of an F asset coin, so an F algo coin. And that would get voted on by Flare token holders, and then either pass or not pass. But there's a bit of a series of things where the Flare Foundation will give a report on it in terms of the security and safety, and that's sorry, got a bit of frog in my throat. But yeah, that's how a new token in its entirety is added to Flare. But in terms of creating, say, getting your Dogecoin onto Flare, you as an individual, so I as an individual want to move my token from the Doge network onto Flare. That's largely going to be wallet based. So, wallets will enable people to take their token, wrap it into an F asset. So take your Doge, interact with an application on a wallet, and end up with F Doge, which you can then do things with on Flare through that wallet. And that's really a layer of abstraction away from the system we're building to make it more simple and more streamlined. I hope that answers your question. If that's not the question you were asking, if it's like, how do I create some other token? That's just a smart contract.
You've answered it perfectly. Thank you so much. Keeping on the topic of the F asset, say if Bitcoin was voted on as an F asset, would there be any concerns with the capacity of the Flare token collateral as it relates to the value of all F assets that try to board via the minting process?
So the thing is, the collateral would respond to that by people making assumptions that collateral will be needed, therefore restricting the supply of collateral, whilst necessarily the demand might stay the same or go increase. So that would end up in a higher price for the collateral, and hence the system really should naturally adjust to the demand and supply for collateral.
Great.
Awesome.
Wow.
It being an economic system.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hugo, I'm going to fluff your pillow here really quick for about 5 seconds. So this question is, the love of Doge, especially here, obviously, as you can tell, is it's pretty incredible. I mean, we have a very intense, passionate group. It's no secret that you love Doge and you understand our mission, as do only gooders. It's obviously it's impossible for us as a community, as one Doge movement, to give you the appreciation that you deserve. You literally did step out on a limb in accepting us for who we are, knowing that the outside communities don't like us, which is, I mean, that's no secret. But the reality of it is they don't like us because they know they can't be us. As it relates to Doge, if you can turn your Flare goggles, I would say beer goggles, but it's too early for you over there. If you can turn your Flare goggles off, if you were on this side of the fence as a Doge holder, why should Doge holders be so excited for the Flare network?
So if you look at what Doge, if you look at some of the use cases of Doge, like a lot of it's around being a payment coin, and it does actually stand up as a payment coin. Where I think it would be very but a payment coin's sort of one thing, and it goes through a network. And it's a singular use case. What Flare allows for Dogecoin to do is to do, I guess, more things. So to go beyond being a payment coin. And what that means is like, so you have your Doge, maybe you don't want to just buy some beers in a football stadium with Dogecoin, which is, I believe, or basketball, I think might be the correct place where Doge is being used. I can't quite remember. I don't really follow American sports much. I don't really follow American sports much, but I don't know what Mr. Cuban owns, but anyway,
it's a basketball team.
Is it basketball? Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
You're good.
So that's that's a use case that has been put forward, and obviously the general use case that Doge is just this meme coin. But what Flare, I guess, tries to bring to that is, first of all, more payment use cases. So things like buying in-game assets, which you can't really do on Doge today, buying NFT art, which you can't do on Doge today. So and all of that can have very Doge-specific things like community, very strong communities around those particular things. Artists in the NFT space are another kind of memeable thing. They are a community of people that have come together to accept a certain artist. And again, Doge can be used to buy those kind of things on Flare. And so that would be a way.
Huge.
That's
that's nothing small, my friend. That's massive.
But so that's but I can see how the Doge community can come together to make very sort of friendly, creative communities where things are created, and that kind of works nicely. And so you can use Doge for that, but also then for things like let's say you don't want to give up your Doge, but you would like to earn some money from it. Say you own a couple of $1,000s worth of Doge, and you'd like to put it in savings. You can put that on Flare, into Flare Finance. That then allows you to earn a yield from that, and it means you don't have to liquidate it if you don't wish to.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation over the weekend about yield farming. So
yes, so it's a huge area.
Yeah,
and then lots of potential other things, and things I really hope that the Doge community themselves will come up with, not led by just it's great that we have all these applications coming to Flare that have taken their inspiration really from Ethereum, but that inspiration on Ethereum really exists because of the unique structure of Ethereum and the unique set of people that have built around Ethereum. What I really hope, and I think you've asked me this question a couple of times before, is what can the Doge community do? Well, not just the Doge community, but the Flare community, the XRP community, the Litecoin community. Really, the biggest thing they can do is simply to think about what it is they would like to build and then build it. And that's it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think at the end of our first call, I actually put a challenge out to everybody that was listening. I think we had over 1,200 people. I literally put a challenge out to say anybody that's from XRP, anybody that's from Litecoin, and everybody that's from Doge that was in there, let's bound together and let's we are a part of Flare. We are Flare. Flare
absolutely,
is us.
100%.
We are Flare.
Very well said.
Flare
Thank
is literally built from. Flare is the network is literally built from your networks.
Right, and that's the thing is like I think once everybody realizes that Flare is us and we are Flare, then I'm sure you've browsed and seen some of the creative work that all of these communities can create. It's incredible. And the fact that for us, obviously, I'm a little bit more biased for Doge. Not just because my profile picture is this random coin that I'm not familiar with. I'm just kidding. It was a joke. But because I would love that's the whole thing. I own Doge because I want to be able to spend it. I don't care if it's 2 cents or $100. It doesn't matter to me. I own it because I want to keep the currency and cryptocurrency, which is the vast majority of us that own Doge. We want to be able to utilize it. And I have been blown away by the amount of creativity that our space and our community has. Every day it's something new. It's like it's totally mind-boggling. So the fact that you bring this up as something that you want from Flare,
well,
as almost like
now those creative people, now those artists, now
right,
those creators, now those entrepreneurs, they can earn in Doge on Flare. They
right,
could earn in Doge before, but through a centralized gateway, like let's say you have a website, like a Patreon. Maybe there's some version of a Patreon that can allow you to earn Doge, but that's a centralized business. What Flare does is it allows for sort of any earning capacity, any application to be built that really allows you to harness the value of the tokens we're bringing to Flare, and that is the kind of the sum of what Flare is doing.
No, I think that's awesome. I think you got a perfect combination of people that are in this, just kind of listening in and also speaking, to be able to kind of unify and kind of create this group within the community to basically, enhance and bring forward these sort of ventures, which I think that's amazing. The ability for us to dive into our community and extract business ventures is, that's music to my ears.
And look, that is the beauty of smart contracts.
Right.
And then the really important thing to understand about smart contracts is composability. And it's something that's being sacrificed actually by a lot of the smart contract networks at the moment. A lot of the scaling plans seem to sacrifice composability. What I mean by composability is this. Let's say you, Tim, you build an application. And then let's say, Jenny looks at your application and then looks at an application built by the other Tim Rowley, and says, okay, well, if I take those two applications and I take the outputs of those applications and I do this third thing, then I've got a new application that just does something really cool. And that's composability. And that is the value of having a community that is all developing, because you develop one thing over here and another thing over there, and then someone comes along and says these two things and this other thing, they go together really well, and then we end up with way more than the sum of its parts.
Hugo, if I may jump right in here, we have I guess an individual via DM practically begging me because I guess he or she is in East Coast, and I believe it's 2 or 3 a.m. over there, and they're just begging for this question. So let's just give it to them.
Go for it.
If they're gonna stay up that late. So there's a two-part question to this one. The person was saying that as of now, everybody understands the smart contracts on Ethereum, right? So would it be fair to say, if you can vouch yes or no, that the Flare network would be similar to what Ethereum does for all of the smart contracts and the dApps that were built on top of it? Wait, that's the first question. The second question for the same person is that recently there are news that Vitalik, he's of course the founder of Ethereum, basically vouched that he loves Doge, and not only that, he wanted he looks forward for Doge and Ethereum to somewhat work together. Okay, so those are the two questions. The person who is in the East Coast, he or she is listening right now.
Cool.
So
Let
there you go.
me jump into that. So yes, Flare, in some ways may be similar to Ethereum. Yes, we use a similar technology, but we have very different user bases. We have very different communities. And so I expect actually to see a totally different set of ideas. I hope to see a different set of ideas. That is incredibly important to me. You know, as I said about 10 minutes ago, what is built on Ethereum is very, very dictated by the minds of the people that have been building on Ethereum. Yes, I expect there will be a large amount of crossover, but I also think that each community is unique. It has its own unique thinkers, and so therefore I expect there to be totally new things built on Flare that haven't been thought of on Ethereum. And to address Vitalik's point, I mean, I think that's a bit. So I think about 5 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago, I talked about composability, and what Vitalik actually said, because he knows that Ethereum can't handle Doge, is he didn't say it should go to Ethereum. He said it should be bridged to Loopring, which is a Ethereum sort of side chain kind of mechanism, which is faster, but it's faster because it sacrifices a lot of things. But essentially, that's how he feels that Doge should work with Ethereum. But again, that compromises composability. If you have Doge on a side chain, you don't have Doge on the main chain, or not, not as directly. And so I think really what Flare is trying to achieve is to get all of the tokens all into the same place, such that what is built on Flare is greater than the sum of its parts. Also, I think it's great that Vitalik's a Doge supporter, and that it will be on Ethereum. Frankly, the more bridges to more places, the better for everything. I think Flare will offer different types of application, hopefully. Hopefully some of them a lot better. Cheaper fees, although Loopring is cheap. So it's just we just have a very different mindset as to how to do these things.
Great.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that.
Hi, Hugo. My name's Amy. Earlier on, you said you hadn't actually invested in marketing until the last few days with regards to Grayscale investment. I know you seem to be leveraging a lot of the communities within crypto and cutting your costs, particularly by backing something like Doge with a huge community behind it. Would you deny that you're leveraging Doge to reduce marketing costs?
I'm not. We're not leveraging Doge to reduce marketing costs. We are, because the marketing bit's sort of.
Well, you're getting a free user base.
Absolutely, we are.
And yeah, it's the same with Ripple. You've got people in the same sort of situation there, people who are huge backers of it.
Absolutely. But if you don't use it, there's nothing there. So,
well, I mean, personally,
meaning that
Hugo,
the value that Flare has is derived from its communities, not the other way around.
yeah, I believe the two need each other. I mean, obviously, what is Flare without the community, and what is the community without a project like Flare? I mean, I've been asking for a couple weeks or months now. I mean, I would love to have a network similar to that of Ethereum, so that smart contracts can build on top of it, so that the Dogecoin can be utilized. So of course, I do believe that the two are dependent upon each other, especially like a project like Flare. So that's, I mean, certainly marketing, community, they're different. And then there's public relation, which we talked about earlier. That too is different. I believe to make the complete pie, each part of such entity would be needed for a company to be successful, because each of such entity does a little bit different things. There are things that they overlap, but the core value of each of those entity, they function differently, and they all need each other, heavily dependent on each other.
Well, not to interrupt, but obviously, Dogecoin is getting smart contracts. They're in the works at the moment. So what is going to be, like, obviously we don't know exactly how that's going to work. So you can't talk about a point of difference between Flare to what those are going to be. They're going to be able to have these DApps and things like that running off those smart contracts. I think it's, something we just have to consider, that, we are going to be having smart contracts within Doge as well, and to look at what the difference that Flare will bring to it.
So Doge is proof of work chain, which means it will run into essentially the same scaling problems, maybe a little different, to Ethereum. And of course, having your own native smart contracts are awesome. But what Flare does is it allows you to have essentially much more scalable smart contracts than a proof of work chain on which Flare. A lot of the reason we built Flare was to try not to impact the underlying chain in terms of Flare's footprint on the underlying chain is basically nil, and that's incredibly important. So each underlying chain can just keep doing what it's doing. And if there's something that a token holder on the underlying chain wants to do on Flare, they can do that. And they can do that without really having a big impact or any impact actually on the underlying chain. And that's kind of the key element here. If you add smart contracts, if Doge adds smart contracts, there's a good chance, unless there's a substantial technological upgrade, which would change the mining structure, that it slows the whole network down, because obviously smart contracts are computationally complex. So yeah, that's what I say on that.
I'm gonna jump past my next question, Jenny, if you wanted to take over from here.
Okay, sure. So next question is, I know we have covered a lot of ground here so far, but I definitely wanted to ask you, Hugo, from Flare, is that if there is anything you wish we, as in your network, could do to represent or help you better.
I think I tried to kind of cover this a little bit earlier, but I think, if you like Flare, evangelize it. But much more importantly, I'm really interested in the use cases that each community wants, not just by itself, by the way. So, like, I think it's awesome when people come up to and say, okay, well, the Doge community have wanted to be able to do this for a long time, and now we can do that on Flare, and that's really like what I'd ask for is, please think about, what does smart contracts mean for your community, and how can they make your community more cohesive or better or more useful? How does it allow the community to achieve some of its its desires? But then also, I would say, also think about, how does Doge, Litecoin, Stellar, and XRP work together? What are the things, where are the collaborations? And then what are the applications that can be built by that?
Yeah, I think you just basically piggybacked off of the last challenge on the first call, which was, I challenge us as a community to come together and unify and try to work on some things that we can propose to you guys and say, this is what we like, this is what we're thinking, what do you guys think? Because really, at the end of the day, it's all about synergy, right? And there are going to be times where you look at us and say, man, go back to the drawing board.
But I mean, I suspect there'll be applications that develop that are, let's say, highly XRP specific or highly Doge specific. But then there'll be applications which take all of the Flare's integrated tokens as well.
Right.
So, and I think both are equally as valuable.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But obviously, the more we can do together as a cohesive community, Doge and XRP and Stellar and Litecoin and anything else integrated, then the bigger the voice we have collectively.
Yeah.
Hugo, gonna squeeze a quick question here for another DM here. It's a good question. This gentleman wanted to understand is, will apps on the Flare network also be developed using Solidity, since Flare will incorporate
That's why we chose. Gotcha. Yep, that's why we chose Ethereum Virtual Machine. There are other virtual machines coming. Ethereum Virtual Machine has its drawbacks, but it is so widely used that it would be, at this point, stupid not to use it.
Nice, very nice.
I think basically what we just did is we encapsulated the last like 4 questions that we had all into one, which I think is phenomenal because that means we're all on the same page, which is great. I definitely wanted to open it up just in case, Hugo, if you have some time.
I've got time.
Okay, cool. I'd love to give the opportunity because I know that Patty, he's been recording, and I know that he's probably got some questions and stuff. And Mickey has been very patient, so I want to just kind of go down the panel. And
Eri is here, so if Eri wants to ask anything, please.
Yeah.
And
sure.
Tim Rowley also.
Yeah. Let's just go down the row. And Jenny, if there's any final points for you, I think what's come out of this, in all fairness, because this is just my ADHD, and Jenny, I alluded to my hamster that likes to run on the wheel at like 2:30 in the morning. What's come out of this is the opportunity for us to collaborate with Amy and Christine and Aaron and all these people in all the communities to come up with something, collaborate with our communities and see, what do we want? And I mean, we have a platform that's receptive to that, which is, I mean, that's unheard of. And I think that's what makes the Flare Network revolutionary, is you guys are very, very receptive to that. So, I mean, we got our work to do. I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited to team up with those of us that are willing to step up and say, okay, let's show them what we're made of, for lack of better terms, because our job is going to be to impress you guys and say, yeah, we made a good choice. So with that said, Jenny, if you had any final talking points or questions.
Not really. I know there's some DMs were telling us El Salvador, I think they just signed a bill about Bitcoin or something like that. But my final question for some of the DM questions, I know Hugo already somewhat tried to answer it, but I know you can't give specific dates, Hugo. But would it be around June or July that you think that you will launch? Again, it's the launch question again.
I'm going to stick to the pinned tweet on our Twitter, which is end of June plus or minus 2 to 4 weeks. So again, like I said, I don't want to give our engineers a heart attack. It's much more important that they get this right than we launch a week or two early. I'm hoping that we are going to be here for 100 years, and that Flare is going to be here for a very long time. So whether we launch in 3 weeks or 6 weeks or some period of time, it's frankly irrelevant.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No. Thank you so much.
I wanted to put you on the spot one more time, Hugo, before I pass it off, because I know we got a bunch of people that had jumped in relatively late. I just wanted you to reiterate the importance of the Dogecoin community being exactly what it is in terms of the Dogecoin community, because it is who we are. It's not just Dogecoin. It's everything that comes with it.
Well, I mean, I think it's really hard to rehash things what is said, and it's probably better if people want to listen to it to listen on to the recording. But I mean, I'm not quite sure where the train of thought left off. But essentially, Doge is it's a collective embodiment of value from a really decentralized community that has come together in a way that, in history, few other communities have come together before. It's you described it as a meme coin. It is widely described as a meme coin. A meme is simply a set of thoughts that propagates through a society, as is, frankly, any currency, because we have to accept the value of any currency. And so, funnily enough, the pejorative of calling something a meme coin isn't a pejorative. It's actually an incredibly important part of how society functions. Society literally functions on a set of shared ideas, which can be thought of as memes. It's just that people think of memes only as the little pictures that people post on things and forget to understand that it's actually a rather sophisticated concept put forward by the evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins. And I refer to Doge as a meme coin as the latter version rather than as just being something to do with a picture that's been copy pasted across the planet.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what I was about to hash on. Was you talk about a United States dollar for whatever its value is or that's been assigned to it, because I know there's no gold in a $20 bill. I know it's all paper, but
not anymore.
There's a number on it and there's a president on it, and you may as well call it a meme. And the value of it is what someone's willing to accept it or exchange it for.
Oh, I mean, it is a meme. There's no other alternative, real description. It is a generally accepted thing by society that it has some value. That is like pretty much the definition of a meme.
Yeah, no, 100%, right there with you. Mickey, I know you've been super patient. You were recommended to call you up here to speak. Hopefully, I don't know where you are in the world, if it's East Coast, West Coast, or what, but the microphone is yours. If you had some questions, man, it's all you.
Thank you, DogeCoinMilitia. Yes, I'm on the East Coast, so it is late here. I just want to reiterate what you said earlier about Flare is like the community, and we're all going to be one community on Flare. And they built this for us. So I think it's important that we as a community or multiple communities participate. And I think that's really important for all the communities. So one thing I wanted to ask Hugo specifically here is on the F-asset system. Now, you said about 6 to 8 weeks after launch, that will go live. So one thing I was curious about was how would there be a bootstrapping to get the collateral into the system and at the same time start the minting of the FXRP? So is there anything in the works with that?
What do you mean by bootstrapping specifically?
So basically, so as people would mint FXRP, there needs to be Spark in the collateral system, right? So how do we get that collateral how do we get the Spark into the collateral system and incentivize that there as the FXRP is being minted? Will there be a cap? Will there be something how will they be rewarded for putting in your Spark as collateral at the same time that the minting will begin?
Okay, so it's FXRP, like FDoge, FLTC, FXLM, all launching at the same time. And the idea being that we have, a set of smart contracts. The way that set of smart contracts works is essentially people start putting their collateral in. They specify a fee that they're prepared to take for the use of that collateral. And then the smart contracts basically choose from the lowest fee. And so for any new minting. And so, there's going to be, let's say, the governance vote at 8 weeks makes it go live. Then the system, essentially, we would expect people to start as soon as it goes live. People will start essentially offering up their Flare as collateral, specifying a fee. It's essentially the same as how do you create any, DeFi LP pool. People who hold the liquidity will just start putting it in there and trying to find a yield. And then the market will clear based on when, the sufficient yield comes about, that satisfies supply and demand. And that's it's sort of fairly straightforward. We don't, there doesn't need to be anything more elaborate than that.
Okay, good. That answers that question. And now, I guess, since we're talking about the F assets, now when you put in your Spark up as collateral, do you earn fees that will be in the F assets that are minted. So as
Yes.
FXRP is minted, so you'll earn a percentage of that percentage that they pay?
So let's say the percentage for minting is 0.5%. You'll earn that 0.5% in the underlying asset.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the redemption phase, you earn your percentage in the F asset. So let's say if it's Doge, you will earn Doge on the minting, and you will earn F Doge on the sending it back to the underlying network on the redemption.
Oh, okay, great. So now you did say there that all the F assets are going to be at the same time. So F Doge is going to start at the same time when we can mint FXRP. So they're all going to go at once. I know this wasn't said in the article that just came out, but is there going to be a governance vote on the percentage of the general rewards pool of Spark that will be rewarded to F asset holders? Like, has that been decided yet? Will that be decided before the network launches, or will that be a governance thing?
So the percentage regime is something that we will predefine when the network launches, but it's obviously changeable by governance at any time.
Okay. So
what we're going to try to do is to make that rewards pool sort of a bit like Bitcoin rewards, as in happen over a very long period of time and reduce over time. So the aim being, hopefully, as the network acquires value, that the sort of dollar reward remains the same, but obviously the outright FLR reward reduces. So we're going to publish. We've been working on that reward scheme for a while. We're going to publish that quite soon. At least our version of it, and of course it can be changed. Any parameter can be changed through governance.
So that's important with the governance here for everyone to understand, in all the communities here, that we're all going to be participating in the governance. So that what comes with the participating in these networks, and the governance, I guess, is the next question.
Yeah, as you hold, so for the Doge community, let's just recap that. As you hold F Doge, and even when you have F Doge in an application, because essentially most applications will be passing on the rewards that are given to them by virtue of them holding the F assets. As you hold that F asset on Flare, so F Doge or X, F XRP or any of the others, you will earn some Flare tokens, and those Flare tokens give you a governance role on the network, and so that's why we say it's democratic. We base our consensus on the underlying networks, and if you bring your value to Flare, you are buying into the governance. And so it is highly democratic.
Excellent. So I guess the next question would be, what governance is, are we going to see something with like the Flare Foundation coming out as we get closer to launch?
Absolutely.
That was described in the white paper. So if you could maybe talk on that.
So we will probably start off with a Flare Foundation blog post that describes what it is and what it isn't. And part of that will be the governance module, which will describe how the Flare Foundation essentially affects governance that is led by the community.
All right, excellent. DogeCoinMilitia, can you pass it to Patty if you don't mind? Thank you, Hugo.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Patty's got the rest of the questions.
No problem, for sure.
Thank you.
Let me call him up. Amy, if you have anything before Patty comes up.
No, I think I'm good. Thanks for your time, Hugo.
Sure.
Oh, my pleasure.
Patty, I'm going to call you up. I know you're recording, so there's probably going to be a little bit of a couple-second lag here. Hugo, have you had breakfast yet?
No.
Oh, man. You got to be running on fumes.
No, I'm fine. I have a good coffee machine.
There you go. So you get a little pick me up.
Exactly. I'm not sure what's happened to Patty.
Yeah, he's probably trying to figure out how to unclick.
Well, he's
record.
a listener right now. Yeah, I don't think you have him as a speaker. Yeah. You could swap me for him if you want.
Oh no, we got room. I think he's been recording this whole thing, so he's probably trying to unrecord.
He can't speak.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. So I'll just we'll keep going here. And
I think Patty needs to request to speak, right?
I can invite him. Yeah, I can invite him. Let's see. Patty, you're killing us, bro. He's probably gonna send me a DM right now. Anybody else have any other questions? Should we call up?
I guess I could ask. I have his questions here in front of me. I could ask if you want, if he's not there. So the next one would be: Is the Flare Foundation owned by? Is the Flare Foundation owned Spark exempt from voter turnout calculations in governance proposals?
Yep.
Okay, so that's a good one. So everyone knows that the Spark that the Flare Foundation has, they can't really use as governance. So it's us, the community, who's really responsible for the governance here of the network moving forward. Next question. Can individuals allocate their Spark to be used by specific agents as collateral in the FSET system? Or does it just go to one pool?
Spark.
So when we put our Spark into the collateral system, do we do it to a direct agent, or do we put it into just a collateral?
When you put your Spark into the system, you are the agent.
You are the agent. Okay,
yeah.
So will that process...
If you gave it to someone else to be the agent on your behalf,
delegate,
that would be something equivalent to, say, Celsius or Nexo.
Okay.
Right? So they would essentially be deploying your capital on behalf of you. So that's a custodial business and essentially is regulated.
Will we be able to do that from our, like, say, a Bifrost wallet? Will we be able to take our Spark and put it up into the collateral system freely, independent from the custodial, or do we have to depend on putting our Spark into the custodial entities? I mean, either way, I mean, I'm just curious how that would work.
I think there will be different models.
Methods.
So I think it is feasible to do it with a wallet. But I do think, and I'll warn, anyone that wants to do that, they need to be quite careful about, the risk they're willing to take, because obviously markets move, and you need to have more, you need to adjust the collateral. And that's very important to make people aware that they really shouldn't take risks that they don't understand.
Yeah. Okay. So there will be,
they just really mustn't gamble. I think that's important.
I understand what you mean on that for individuals. So there will be entities out there that will be able to delegate or stake our Spark with. That's what I'm asking. I guess that's what people have been asking me too. Is there going to be options for that?
I think, from what I understand, based on conversations with the rest of the providers, yes. When that comes, whether it's day one or day N, I don't know. It's not up to us. We're not building it. Again, we can't build these kind of things and build the network simultaneously. So let's just. I personally think that that's an extremely good business model, and I think if it doesn't happen immediately, I think it will happen quite quickly.
Okay, that kind of answers enough of that question. I'll just keep it to like one or two more, and then we'll let somebody else take over. Yes. Oh, you're back.
It was really difficult to figure out how to not talk into the recording. So.
Okay, go ahead, Patty. You take over. Thank you, Hugo.
Hey, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Hugo, for doing this. I was curious about, so when you mint an F asset, you're sending the underlying asset over to the agents. What are the agents able to do with it at that point? Can they use those assets while they don't have to redeem, offer them back for redemption? in like some interest earning product or something like that?
So what you're doing is you're sending the asset to the agent. You are then getting the asset on Flare, backed by Flare, 2.5 times the value. And so what it ultimately is a cross-chain DEX, whereby the agent is getting your asset and you're getting a stable coin that's essentially attached to your asset. And so, yes, the agent is at the point where it goes to the agent, it is then the agent's asset. It's so the point is the system's non-custodial. That agent can then leave. So that agent can then have that asset. Let's say it's XRP. It can then do whatever it likes with that XRP. And then the system can say, I want you to do X, Y, Z, and the agent can discharge their obligations in any particular number of ways. So it may be that the agent never actually ends up paying that XRP directly back out. They may simply buy FXRP on Flare and then net that off against their position on in the smart contracts. So that may sound a bit complex, but it's really not. It's very simple. Yeah, it's the agent's asset at the point at which it's created. The agent just has these obligations that are very, very draconian in order to keep the system running.
Yeah, it's a really, really big haircut if they don't honor it.
Yeah,
so.
And very important that they don't.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess on top of that, so I know in the white paper, you guys mentioned a collateral call band that basically, as an agent becomes under collateralized, the system will buy back the F assets so that they become collateralized again. So does that basically, will that prevent like any just defaults on not having enough collateral for the most part? I know like on the redemption side, if they don't honor it, you get the spark collateral. Yeah, if you could expand there.
So yes, the idea of that is that at the point where they enter the collateral call band, which is between 2.4, I think, and I think it's 2.45 or 2.4. I can't remember where it's set, and 2.5 times the value of their position. So they have a position where there's 100 FDoge issued, $100 worth of FDoge issued, and they have $245 against that, dollars worth of Flare. So that they should be at 250, but now they're in the collateral call band, which is between 245 and 250. And if they don't top up that collateral in a short space of time, then we start using their collateral, which is $245, to start buying $100 worth of FDoge. At which point, so we can buy $100 worth of FDoge. Not we, but the system can buy $100 worth of FDoge, essentially for $245 worth of Flare, and so that gives an incentive for people to deliver FDoge against that to reset the system such that there's no losses.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you. And then I just had one final one. So for like as an agent, when you earn the underlying asset fee, are you just getting that from positions that you are helping collateralize, or is it like spread out through everybody providing collateral every time an F asset is minted? So you know how like the general rewards pool, it's like your share?
So no, it's not pooled. Okay. It goes to the agent.
Cool. All right.
Directly, because it's paid to the agent as there's no pooling because that would be impossible to do.
Okay, that makes sense.
In a decentralized manner.
All right, that's all I have, but I appreciate you answering those.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's see. I think Indigo.
I just wanted to say thank you for all the answers and just being here. It's 2 o'clock in some places, 1 o'clock in other areas. And for you, it's probably 8 o'clock now, something like that.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Well, look, thank you so much for listening. I know it's super late for lots of people, and I apologize for to be based in England. Hopefully, one day I'll be based somewhere a bit easier for most of the crypto world.
Well, we all
Yeah,
appreciate what you do.
it's to apologize for where you're where you're located,
No,
right?
it's a complex time zone.
Yeah. Indigo, you got any questions? Are you good?
Oh, it wasn't a question. I just wanted to say thank you.
That's cool, man. Thank you for the work you do with Deep Space.
It's
Yeah, no,
all
you're
the
awesome, man.
community. Recently, the channel took a different direction, and I'm sure some people have been surprised by the logo or my more recent change. But like, I am not Deep Space Flare. The community speaks on Deep Space Flare. There's a subtle difference there, so I kind of wanted to disseminate the difference a little bit. So it's just a channel for the community. That's all it is.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Looks like Hugo, if you have time, looks like there's 3 people that are requesting to speak.
Go for it.
And then after that, we can call it. We can call it a night. I know Zach Bychek. That's how you pronounce your last name. Boychek. I think I saw you play against the Kings, and I would love to call you up as a speaker, but I'm a Kings fan. So
feel free to take me off.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right.
And I did have 2 questions, but I can wait till other people ask too.
Aaron.
Yeah.
I never called you up.
Yes, you did.
Oh gosh, what a mistake. I'm just kidding. I'm gonna save you for last because I know your questions are gonna be very
Sounds good. Yeah.
Let's go with Josh. I know Josh has been waiting for a little bit, so let's add him in here. Indigo, man, thank you so much for jumping in, man. You are awesome in accumulating some of these questions and everything that you did to reach out. Love you, bro. Let's connect offline. Let's make something special. Josh, speaker's yours, bro.
Yeah, I just had a question. So I guess the Flare network honors the underlying protocol, whether it be proof of stake or proof of work, correct?
Yep.
All right. So
although it depends what you mean by honor.
Like, you're not
that's not a technical word.
Yeah, so you're not gonna change. So like, if say Doge remains proof of work, then do you then like process the transactions on the layer 2 Flare network in like proof of stake?
No. Flare is its own consensus protocol. It's federated by Xanthide agreement, structured from each underlying network. So the miners on Doge, which share with Litecoin, it's merge mined, will have the option, and we expect many of them to, or we hope many of them to, come to Flare and be part of Flare's consensus structure. It's dictated on in our docs. I think it's kind of the coolest thing that Flare, one of the coolest things that Flare does. So basically, your network becomes part of Flare, and so therefore, Flare is really just a network of networks, whereby there's a kind of democracy between each integrated chain, and that's very important to us.
And when you say that you're like releasing for multiple cryptocurrencies at the same time, is like you received adoption from these entities, or like how does that work? Like, so does Doge have to say yes, we want to work with you before you can actually release this?
No, the network Flare, which is its own blockchain, and the Flare tokens, which gives the governance around the network, is what matters to Flare. And as you as you mint Doge onto Flare, you will earn some Flare tokens, and that gives you governance power.
Awesome. Josh, you good on your questioning there?
Yes, sir. We're good. Thank you.
Awesome. I just wanted to relay that in one of the other Twitter spaces, they had I mean, this is mind-boggling. It was a congressional vote with El Salvador to recognize Bitcoin as legitimate currency. So
yeah, I saw that.
Yes.
yeah,
and I was there.
That's insane. Nice.
The president was there as
The
well
president
in
was
the
in
actual
there of El
chat.
Salvador.
Yeah,
and
no big
everything.
deal. No big deal.
Yeah.
Just the president of Salvador. No,
was
it's
so
literally
cool.
no big deal.
Well, we got a good turnout
It was
here, though.
fire.
I feel like we had a better space. So it you know, listen, I'm not about the followers or about, you know, clout or anything, but I think our space was better. Let's see. Chart. Watchdog. You're up, bro.
All right. Good morning. Thank you for giving me the mic. Hugo, I just have one question for you. If we're in one particular country when we claimed our Spark token, done some of it on a wallet, some of it on an exchange, and then we leave the country that we're in and it's unable to get to that particular exchange, are we able to change where we receive our Spark tokens?
No, because you didn't hold that token. Your exchange did. At the point you have tokens with an exchange, those aren't your tokens. Those belong to the exchange. They have a duty to give you those tokens if you ask for them, but they're not really your tokens. And so the address that those tokens are held in belongs to the exchange. And there's just no way that because we could have millions of people come to us and say, oh, I can't get my token from the exchange. Please, can you give me Spark? And then we'd also have to give the exchange the same tokens, and so it would just be a duplication, and we'd end up essentially the distribution would be messed up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. If it's not, there are drawbacks to having your tokens on exchanges. So in your own custodial wallet, non-custodial wallet, as in your own self-custody wallet, it doesn't matter where you live, what you do, you're able to claim Spark. But if you're at an exchange, it's up to them.
Okay. So if it's
apologies if that's problematic.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be problematic at this stage, but I am planning on leaving the US at some point, and it would be within the next 3 years. So,
but why would that mean that you have to terminate your exchange relationship?
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't think you would. I mean, just because you leave doesn't mean you wouldn't still have an account at the exchange.
Well, I haven't checked with the exchange or anything yet, so I'm not exactly sure. But I know what they've done.
Yeah, sure.
What was previously done with Binance, and I didn't claim it through Binance. I claimed it through another exchange, but just because of what happened with that before, I was just wondering.
I can't remember what Binance did. I think they basically divested their US customers from Binance.com and put them into Binance US.
Yes.
I think that was to meet regulatory requirements. Yeah, I can't comment on individual exchanges. We have 100 or so that are supporting the airdrop.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the only question I had, but I want to thank you for doing these talks with DogeCoinMilitia, and I want to thank him for putting these on. They've been great to listen to.
My pleasure.
I listened to the last one, and I got to listen to this one here tonight as well.
Nice. No, I appreciate you, man.
All right.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I guess we'll finish with. Okay. I guess we'll finish with Aaron.
I want to be clear. I didn't even want to be up here. I was demanded.
Yeah, I bet. But yeah,
I didn't even hit the button or anything. So yeah.
I didn't mean to.
My question is actually going to be a little bit less technical, and a little more maybe philosophical or abstract. And so the first one, sorry, I have two. And so the first one is, maybe about like how you feel personally and about your team, about what gives you guys sort of advantage. Also, a little bit about what your motivations are in this whole sort of endeavor. I know a little. You talked a little bit about your background. I think in like derivatives and futures, and then of course going to school for machine learning as well as your team, and also in some quantum computing. And so yeah, I was just curious, like what was it about you guys, or again as a team, that motivated you to get into the space and then do what you want to do? And what I can gather has to do with like creating something new and innovating and changing sort of the space a little bit for the better. And then if I can go to the second question, because I think it kind of ties, I can also restate it if you need, is when it comes to sort of, again, the overall space, if there's anything that for people in the audience that they could see as the space is expanding with new platforms, with new coins, everything, that could be red flags to watch out for, or to maybe be more pointed, like what are some red flags that you see that you would want to avoid or warn people about as they start to discover more and new platforms and exchanges and new ways of tokenizing, wrapping, just all the whole thing, anything that you find concerning. So again, first question about you and your team, and then second one about red flags that people could be watching out for.
Sure. So the first question you asked was, what's our advantage? And I mean, I rarely think of it in that terms, but I think that if you actually look at what Flare's trying to achieve, it's trying to achieve, I think, a couple of things that are very different to what I've seen other people trying to achieve. So when you look at people that say bridge Doge onto an existing network like Ethereum, they're doing that really without giving the underlying community anything in return. They don't get any element of governance. They don't get any element of participation in consensus. They don't get, I guess, to earn some of the underlying token, as I said, mostly to exercise governance. What Flare's really trying to do is to bring communities together in a sort of democratic and egalitarian way. And you asked me for my philosophy. I think we started as a team really with a singular desire to help, or at least an interest in decentralization. When I was trading in financial markets, I got very sort of down rabbit holes of like, where does value come from? What is the economy about? What's all this about? And because you start trying to look at the economy and at money and at value and at capital as almost a physical system. And the problem is, it's really hard to look at it as a physical system because it doesn't have any kind of real underlying. It's been structured in a way such that the underlying laws, which are scarcity, as in the world has it has scarcity. There's a fixed amount of anything at any given time. The world's economy tries to abstract very, very heavily away from that, so as to manage the populations, and that can be good, it can be bad, but the ultimate thing is that it puts a very small set of people in control of a very, very large amount of people. And we feel that there's a better way to do that. I think the entire decentralized space feels that there's a better way to do that. And so that was really our desire, to get into the space, to build something in the space, and to make something kind of, of value. We didn't know what it was when we set out. It's tough to, be both a company and something with a strong philosophical sort of leaning, because, philosophy doesn't always make you money in the short term. But I think probably if you have an opinion and you stick to it, and other people have that opinion, and it propagates, then I think you do end up with something of value. So where to go with the rest of that? Why are we doing what we're doing? What's motivating us? We're motivated by the desire to make decentralized networks better. What people do with decentralized networks is up to them. We don't dictate that. We just wanted to make decentralized networks better. And then let me just tell you the real core advantage. So obviously, one advantage we think is we bring communities and sources of value, whether that's XRP, Doge, Litecoin, Stellar, or whatever, together in a much better way than we see any other model, much more trustless and much better technically, meaning much more so a lot of the bridges I see are frankly quite weak in terms of the way they're structured. They're technically a bit very centralized, and probably really should be licensed, and therefore money service businesses, and therefore not decentralized. So that's just my view. But the other thing, and the thing that really drives us, motivates us, is the consensus protocol. It's where we focused, it's where we started, and it's very, very important just to try and bring this up. You started out with proof of work. Many people are moving to proof of stake for their scaling. We think that has really distinct shortcomings. Obviously, it's feasible that proof of stake will be extremely useful, but we think that there needs to be an alternative, because where I started philosophically is that the world has scarcity. Well, that is true both for energy, which drives proof of work, but also stake, which is essentially simply capital. And so capital is scarce, and in fact, capital is fixed at any moment in time. Yes, it grows over time as the sum of human endeavor creates more and more wealth or capital, but it's fixed at any one time. So what proof of stake is asking, by and large, of the population of the world, is for us to divert increasingly large amounts of capital away from other productive endeavors, such as scientific research or making machinery or whatever it is that the economy does with capital. Capital is essentially the scarce element in the economy, and everything else is then essentially revolves around managing capital in the most efficient and the way that gives the best outcomes for the world. And we just think that proof of stake is it uses, if it was taken to any global scale, that it uses capital in a way that is undesirable, and probably doesn't result in the best outcomes for the economy and therefore for humans. And so we figured that there should be a different consensus algorithm that doesn't use capital, and that is exactly what Flare does. Now, Flare may integrate proof of stake chains, but essentially those stake creates the value on that chain, whatever that value is. Let's say it's $100, but then that $100 can be used on Flare, and it can be transformed into value of thousands of dollars without using any additional capital. And that is really the key to what we're trying to achieve. So I think that's probably too much for many people to get. Hopefully that's not too much. But I think I have possibly gone off the deep end a bit. So I'll just leave that there.
Oh, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Aaron, you good? Bulbous?
Yeah,
Aaron,
yeah. I was still kind of curious.
What was the second question?
Yeah, there you go.
There was the second one.
It just was basically maybe red flags that us in the community who aren't so technically trained or are not engineers or programmers could watch out for. Or if a better answer or way to look at it would be things that you do see out there that cause you concern or that you would be watching out for moving forward in the space as it expands. And yeah.
So I see a lot of projects that come along, proposals that come along that that try to pull the wool over people's eyes. as to what they're really doing. And I'll be succinct with that in terms of they'll say, oh, we're doing X, Y, Z, and this enables ABC, one of which is usually DeFi. But so often what people are really doing is they're compromising on the decentralization that they have put forward. So when I say red flags, when you say red flags, the biggest thing that gets me is something that's truly centralized, which is usually things. If you look at say a lot of the bridges that have been created, they're centralized bridges, and you're actually just taking the risk of having your money with the bank, only there's no regulator. Or let's say you've got a set of K nodes of N nodes of which K are required for a transaction to be to go through, and they're essentially custodial. What really bugs me, and what we spent 4 years trying to figure out, was how do we create something that's non-custodial and doesn't present excessive risk and is trustless. And so that's the first red flag. Second red flag is anything that comes along too quickly and gathers steam too quickly. Flare's been around for a reasonable amount of time, and we have gathered a lot of steam. But I've seen a lot of these meme coins come along in the last couple of months that have just, I don't want to name names, but I've seen a lot of meme coins come along in the last couple of months. It just looks like some kind of very well-funded PR exercise, and those scare me.
Thank you very much. Again, I really appreciate it, and I'm sure.
My pleasure.
I wanted to go to Giants fan because, although he's a Giants fan, I guess we have to. He's going to be our last call, and then we'll wrap this thing up. We'll wrap this thing up. So, cool. Giants fan, it's all yours. You need to get a profile pic.
Yeah.
And have it be a Dodgers.
Yeah, I try to remain anonymous. That Giants fan could just mean the little league team I played for.
Fair.
Yeah.
I love it.
Anyways, Hugo, thanks for doing all this for us. First question I had, I'll try to make this quick. So Flare Networks Limited, that's what you work for. I know there's a foundation as well. I know you guys have, I think, 20 to 25 billion Spark at inception, and foundation has more.
Flare Networks Limited has 25 billion. The foundation, actually, we've given a lot of the foundation funds already to the minting pools. So the foundation is going to start out with 13.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
And the idea behind the foundation is not that it's going to last forever. It should last for a couple of years to help get things going, and then it should die off.
Right, because I know within governance there's a vote to just destroy the foundation now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'd be very happy, if the foundation's not doing a good job, or the foundation's, people don't think it's useful anymore, get rid of it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Flare Networks Limited. I think a lot of the questions here were more focused on the short term. How do we get started? How do we mint our F assets? But 5-10 years from now, where are you guys? Are you guys still agents on Flare? Are you guys a public company? Are you guys acquiring companies? Where do you see the long-term vision of Flare Networks Limited?
So Flare Networks Limited, I mean, on the whole, we don't discuss it because it just means that we run into problems of essentially people thinking that Flare Networks Limited is in some way responsible for the growth or value of the Flare token, of Spark. And it isn't. Flare Networks Limited really it receives some Flare at the outset, and its job is to deploy that Flare in a way that earns it money. That is the job of that company. If it creates other applications, businesses, or whatever that are blockchain or non-blockchain, that is really its own domain, and it's not something we should talk about because, like I said, we can only talk about things once they're delivered. Otherwise, we would be saying something that would give people an expectation that we as a team will be working towards the future value of the network, and that's no longer a blockchain. That's a company that should be regulated, and we're not that. We're explicitly not trying to do that. So what Flare Networks is a group of engineers who obviously have an interest in Flare because they built it. But our job is as a participant on the Flare network is to take our Flare tokens and use them to earn value for that company. So obviously we intend to take part in the FTSO and in the agent system. Beyond that, we actually don't have any plans for applications, like genuinely. And if we do, we won't be talking about them.
Got it. Yeah, you don't want to get too deep into the security talking. One last question. I will make this less than 30 seconds. I'll be very clear. I come from the sports betting industry, which is a very, very big industry, and
I know it well.
And I know a lot of it is very, very centralized. I was wondering if there has been any inquiries or talkings with you guys of building a DApp on Flare networks where you can become a signal provider within a decentralized application. So you're not just you don't just participate in the FTSO, but you're also a signal provider within a DApp.
So,
Is there any headway there? Is anybody talking?
So I would leave that to the sports people who have. Let me just be bluntly clear. Sports betting is an extremely risky area to be involved in from a regulatory standpoint. And so I'll just leave that to the people that want to build those applications. They can, of course, build them on Flare, but and I have absolutely no issue with that. But from a regulatory standpoint, it's just a nightmare.
It's definitely not. It's definitely a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just I think, look, I think it's great that people are making an attempt to do these things. But it's just not something we've spent any time on or thought.
No, that's fair. Yeah. I'm sure I'm going to try to push this up to my bosses to reach out to you guys to hopefully build on Flare, because I think there's a massive opportunity there that is, somewhat risky, but could be very lucrative for everybody involved. But I will maybe save that for the next.
I think if you get the model right and you don't, you don't break the law, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
but it's the problem is the laws are very complex and hard to even know, I think, in a lot of jurisdictions.
Yeah, we're based in the U.S. We're headquartered in San Francisco. We're getting licenses in every state. It's very expensive, very time consuming, very annoying. Yeah. But yeah, I think
then if it's a licensed system and stuff, that should be much easier to achieve.
Yeah. So this might be.
It does, of course, go against the idea of decentralization, but like I said, it's really up to the application builder to decide how they wish to conduct.
Right. No, business. I completely agree with you, and it wouldn't be just like us having our own application. It would be us becoming a signal provider within the application. So so other people can also.
That is definitely something that's very interesting.
Yeah. So we it could be us, and it can be a dozen other companies, or people just submitting their own prices for an outcome on an event. So people can maybe.
There's some really interesting models there, actually. I mean, one of the things I used to look at was a human prediction machine, which was kind of like polling individuals for the result of an outcome, and it was really quite accurate, as in it would win more often than not. And so there are some super interesting models that you can put together to create essentially decentralized ways of basically polling people and understanding their thoughts on something, such that you can then use that as a predictor. And again, if you look at something like the bonding curve protocol, it would be super interesting to allow predictors to sell their signals on a chain. I'm not talking about gambling. I'm simply saying that someone who makes predictions can sell their signals, and the more right they are, the more people would buy into their predictions, and the bonding curve, the token would go up in value relating to the bonding curve, and the more wrong they are, conversely, the token will go down. So I think there's huge things that can be done in the probability prediction space that are completely unexploited in blockchain, principally because blockchains have been far too expensive. Well, smart contracts have been far too expensive to operate. So I think there's a whole world of applications out there that could be extremely exciting, but simply have been not even looked at yet.
No, I agree. Yeah, we're about to go through our Series C, Swish Analytics, San Francisco. I'll leave it there. It's going to be a very, very exciting next 5-10 years, and I cannot wait for what's about to come with Flare and everything that's being built on top of Flare. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Well, I look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, anybody who wants to connect offline, we definitely have the network leads. So my DMs are open. Jenny's DMs are open. Hugo, I know you're very accessible. So anybody that wants to continue the conversations offline, we're all open. So we can definitely make that happen.
I'm fielding quite a lot at the moment, but I will try to find time for anyone.
Yeah. I get it. You end up kind of recognizing the ones that you're like, oh yeah, I remember that one. That's the one I wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna wrap up with that. That was a great kind of spot to leave off with. Hugo, as always, you blow my mind. This is, it just is like, how do you come up with stuff like this? It's insane. It's incredibly revolutionary. It's something that we are very proud to be a part of. It's something that you obviously saw something in us, and we want to do our best to make sure that you're very proud of us and you recognize that we're doing everything that we can on our end to put our best foot forward to make you guys realize and know that everything that we're doing is in the best interest of not just Doge, but all of those that represent us, including Flare.
Well, look, I just want to say, we have the ideas that we've put forward, and it's really only you guys that make those worthwhile, and it's only you guys that will make these useful. So this is a symbiotic thing. We can only put the ideas forward and for them to be adopted. So I think what I want to say is I'm extremely thankful for both the opportunity to engage with your community and if what Flare is doing chimes with them, that's awesome. And also thankful for the existing community that we have, who have been unbelievably supportive and gotten us to this point.
Yeah, I'm exactly right there with you, minus the cough. If anybody, last time I think we talked, you were fighting the airport.
Same cold.
Oh, unbelievable.
Same cold. 4 weeks.
That's insane.
Wonderful.
What the heck? It's been like 3 weeks.
Wonderful. It's been a long time. It's wonderful.
Oh man, what a mess.
Last time I was here, I was told to put mushrooms on your body.
No, it was onions.
Oh.
God.
Don't get it wrong, man. Don't put mushrooms on your body. You're gonna throw off the
onion.
I'm just kidding. Anyway, honestly, thank you so much, Hugo, for everything that you've done. We are so excited to see the launch. It's coming. It's right around the corner. I'm sure you're probably just pulling out your hair like, oh, we're so much closer, but it's right there. So
I mean, we know it's close, but we feel there's a lot to do.
Yeah, of course. And that's the thing is like with any launch of any new, whether it be an industry disruptor or a startup company, you just never will feel like you're perfectly there. You're always going to be like, okay, we're there. Let's see how it goes.
Agreed.
But I want you to know that like you have a massive community backing you. Everybody that's been on the panel that's jumped up and asked questions, and everybody that's in this room, we got your back, and we want to do everything in our power to make sure that you know that we have your back. And if there's anything that we can do to help facilitate, the exposure and make sure that people understand that this isn't, we're gonna fight the naysayers. That's the nature of the game. And when you transition from something so drastic like this, I mean, we're going from a world economy to a world economy. I mean, that's I didn't even say once in a lifetime. That's a once in a global lifetime, event. And there's no script.
It's a global turning point.
Yeah, there's no script. Nobody's going to know the right way or the wrong way to do it. But at the end of the day, if we all come together as a community and we all, fight for the same cause, and, everybody, like I said, the running joke is when moon. Well, it doesn't matter when moon. It's when we all get there.
What are you measuring it against?
Yeah.
If you're trying to replace the existing system, against what are you measuring it? Mooning in
exactly.
what?
Yeah, exactly. And we're not fighting against one another to get there. We're all in the same, rocket ship per se, going there at the same rate, and we're all trying to get there as fast as we can. But at the end of the day, we got to get there correctly. You can't just veer off and decide to go off on a different tangent and hope you find the final destination. Because that's just not how things work. You got to get there. It's got to be strategic. But I want you, if there's anything to take away from tonight from our end, for you and Flair, is to know that we got your back just as much as you got ours.
Well, that's awesome. And, I'll reiterate what I said earlier is, if you guys can just chew on what it is that you feel that you can build on Flair that will serve your community better, just let me know, and we can point you in the direction to resources to help you build it.
Yeah, well, challenge accepted. You got a lot of very, very talented minds in this group that'll put together some super incredible stuff, and I can say that firsthand because I've seen it. So I'm excited for what the future holds. As mentioned in the post that went out, this is probably going to be the last time we talk before your launch. So on behalf of everybody in all communities, we wish you the very best of luck in your launch. I know you're going to be, like I said, you're going to be pulling your hair out, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a beautiful thing. And you got us standing there right behind you to say, hey, you got this. We're going to pat you on the butt and say, you got this. So we're here for you. If you need a break and you want to jump into space and just vent it out, by all means. That tends to be what Twitter Spaces is about anyway. So.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Yeah, believe me, we've all seen it. So,
thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, Jenny. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Let's see how it goes, man. This is going to be very interesting, and let's collaborate offline and present Hugo with something incredible, and let's blow Hugo's mind, because I think you've deserved it. You've blown ours, and now it's our turn to blow yours. So
excellent. Well, look, thank you for your time,
Hugo.
And thank you everyone for listening.
All right, Hugo.
Thank you.
Feel better,
Good
man.
night.
Get rid of that cough, man.
I think